Okay, well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today on behalf of the California Department of Veterans Affairs and the California Transition Assistance Program. We would like to welcome you to today's presentation on California wildfire preparedness. We have a lot of information that we're going to cover in this hour, so we're going to go ahead and push through and get started. And hope you guys get some useful information from today's webinar. So before we get started, we just want to kind of go over some general housekeeping items. We do ask if you are not a panelist or presenting to please keep your cameras turned off and your microphones muted. This will just kind of help eliminate some of the distractions and save on some of the bandwidth for the rest of the presenters. As far as the agenda goes today, we're just going to do a high-level overview of the CalTAP program within CALVET. Kind of show you how to navigate some of our resources online and go over some of the California specific veterans benefits that you or your family members may be entitled to here in the state of California. If you are not a veteran joining us today on today's webinar, that's perfectly fine as well. And hopefully you just get some general information from today's webinar that you could pass along to some veterans that you may know. And we are also joined by the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services to go over some disaster preparedness tips as well. Nick Murray is joining us today, and as well as the Department of Veterans Affairs emergency response team. And then after that, we are going to be going over some local resources that you may find in your community when it comes to disaster relief and local assistance within your area or your region, and kind of connect you with some local resources as well. When we conclude that, we are going to open it up to a Q&A panel. You can hold your questions for the Q&A panel towards the end of the presentation, or you can use the Zoom chat feature that you see right here. If you're not familiar, you can just submit your question via the chat to my colleague who is under the CalTAP CalVet icon, or you can submit those using the Q&A portion as well. So either way, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions and those can be addressed at the end of the presentation. So let's go ahead and get started with the CalTAP overview. Again, my name is Derek Rose, and I serve as a training coordinator for the CalTAP team. So we just want to kind of describe what exactly is CalTAP and the purpose and who it serves. So CalTAP is designed to inform and connect veterans of all eras of service to the earned federal and state benefits. We really do want to emphasize that we don't primarily focus our our services and our efforts towards recently separated transitioning veterans. We do want to make these services available to veterans of all eras because we know that those needs change over time. So the way that we've done that is we've created our our pathway programs, and you can see what each one of those 5 pathways are. So everything from your core curriculum, which is basically Veterans Benefits 101. That's how to enroll in VA healthcare, how to file disability claims for compensation, records requests, and basically all of your core VA benefits within that category. And as you can see, our other pathways as well: education, employment, entrepreneurship, and veteran service provider pathway. So if a veteran's transition is taking them to either one of those key areas, the CalTAP program has very user-friendly and self-paced learning modules and pathways for that veteran to navigate at their leisure. So a little bit how to find us and use CalTAP online. The first thing that you'll come across is our California Veterans Resource Book. Now, this is a great tool to keep handy. If you don't have a hard copy edition, you can download this on our website, the PDF version, and I believe we're also going to send a link through the chat. This is just a great resource. It's basically your veterans benefits from A to Z, anything from your federal resources to all the state resources as well, that I'm going to just kind of touch on briefly in this presentation before we move into the bulk of the content. But just recommend to keep this handy. It's really kind of like gold if you can have a copy of it yourself. So to find us, the CalTAP program online, this is our main page on CalVet, you could go to that icon down there on the right-hand side and click CalTAP, and that'll bring you to our main page, CalTAP's pathway page, to where you can see that those 5 modules that I listed earlier are the 5 pathways. Also really wanted to point out down there at the bottom, you can see that ribbon that's highlighted that says archives. So over the past 18 months or so, CalTAP has shifted all of our efforts to webinars and online outreach. And we have created a whole series of topic-specific webinars, anything from mental health resources to, employment webinars, home loans, entrepreneurship resources as well, and education. So all of those have been archived on our website. So if you want to kind of circle back and find a webinar that you may be interested in learning more about, we have put all of those on our website. This webinar will be recorded as well and placed on our website shortly after the presentation. So a little bit more about some of the work that CalVet does through our headquarters building in Sacramento. You can see all of the different divisions that we have within CalVet. I work for CalTAP, which falls under the Veterans Services Division, but you can see some of the other work that CalTAP does with our home loans program, our Minority and Women Veterans Affairs Division, as well as our Veterans Homes Division. So that's just some additional outreach within CalVet, and we can show you some contact information for some of those other units as well. So when it comes to your veterans benefits here in California, you may have questions. What exactly are they? We won't, go over each one of those today, but we want to just kind of show you. Maybe you can take a snapshot if you maybe are familiar with some of the benefits here in the state, or you may, come across some information that you want to find out more about. You can always reach out to us and we'd be happy to talk you through each one of these benefits. But as you can see right here, we offer several different programs, anything from our fee waiver for college tuition for veterans dependents. There is the driver's license designation, so you don't have to carry around your DD-214 everywhere you go for all your local discounts and benefits. There's motor vehicle registration if you qualify based on any type of level of service-connected disability. There's reduced fees for your hunting licenses and fishing licenses, as well as no cost use for state parks. Again, if you have that eligibility. There are property tax exemptions that may be available to you through your county assessor's office. Again, definitely want to assess your eligibility with a veteran service rep so that they can qualify you for these benefits. Anything from business licenses, tax and fees. If you wanted to sell any goods or products in the state and you need a business license to do so, you could qualify to have those fees waived. I mentioned it a few times, our CalVet Home Loans program, which is a great program here at the state level. If you're a veteran interested in home ownership, you may be familiar with the federally backed VA home loan. CalVet offers a similar type of loan program. The only difference is that CalVet is actually the loan holder for that. So very similar to VA. But if you're interested in home ownership, maybe you can find out more information just to see if that's a good choice for you as well. As I mentioned earlier, our CalVet Women's Veterans Division and our Minority Veterans Division outreach. Our CalVet homes that we operate in the state, there's 8 homes located from all the way up north in Shasta County, all the way down to San Diego County, and as well as our CalVet state cemeteries. You may be familiar with the National VA Cemetery Administration, but CalVet operates 3 state cemeteries as well. So this is just kind of a really super brief overview of what those benefits are in the state. Again, our contact information will be here today. So if you want to find out anything more about eligibility or the requirements, we'd be more than happy to walk you through that. So that is just kind of an overview before we kind of jump in and get started. Again, my name is Derek Rose with CalTAP. That's my direct email address. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions, and I will provide you all the help that I can. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and shift it over to Cole Wagoner, who serves as the Northern Valley Regional Link, and he's going to tell you about some of the work he does regionally here in the state and kind of how he can connect you to some local resources. Some of the work that he does. So with that, Cole, if you're ready, feel free to take it away.
Thank you, Derek. Good morning, everybody. Hit the next slide, please. As Derek mentioned, I'm the local interagency network coordinator for Northern California. It's a really long title and it really only means that I help connect people to resources and I help connect resources to other resources. So if you look at this wonderful map of the great state of California, we've divided up into 8 link regions. My region is up there in the north in the orange, quite a large geographic area, but about 260,000 veterans live there. If you contrast that with my counterpart down in Orange County, where he has a really small geographic area, but they also have about 260,000 veterans that live just in Orange County. And so if you've lived in California a while, you realize that it's a very large state and very different regionally. And so that's why it's important to have regional coordinators that understand the local area, understand what veterans resources are available in that area, and have connections to how to connect you to those resources. And so that's why we have these link regions. If you look at the map here, and they've also included it in the chat, if you're zooming in from anywhere in the state, there is a link that lives in your region that should be able to help connect you to any veteran benefits that you've heard about or have questions about, or even just want to learn more about. Next slide, please. So what do links do? They do outreach to individual service members, veterans, and family members, work with service providers to provide referrals for those veterans and family members, assist with local emergencies like wildfires, and help provide leadership and advocacy within communities. So we help connect all these folks, all these service providers that are doing great things for veterans throughout California, help them connect with one another so we can all work together, deliver those services as efficiently as possible, get all those benefits to the veterans and their families. Next slide, please. So it is a very unique position. As I mentioned, there's only 8 of us in the state, and it's a very interesting job in that you're talking to veterans, finding out what it is they need, and then helping get them to the right place. Because there's no more diverse group of people than veterans. There's young veterans, old veterans, veterans of every race and gender. So it's all individualized to the person, what they need, what they're eligible for, and how they can get it. And helping them get that access to that is a full-time job. Next slide, please. So again, resource experts in our region. So like I mentioned, the regions are quite a bit different, like the veteran services that are available up in Siskiyou County at the very far northern point of the state are a lot different than the veterans resources available in San Diego County. And so understanding what's available and how to get access to it is something that we do. If you've ever tried to navigate all these different veterans programs on your own, you realize that it's time consuming and there's a lot to learn about it. And so that's our full-time job and we're here to help with it. Next slide, please. So some of the agencies that we work quite a bit with the Employment Development Department for employment and training, also work with another state employment organization called Work for Warriors. We work with all of the county veteran service offices spread throughout the state. We work with the different entities within CalVet, like the home loans and the veterans homes. We also work with all the VA medical centers and clinics in the area and the VA vet centers. Next slide, please. So this is my contact information. As I mentioned, my region is up there in the far north of California. So if you live up there in Northern California, please feel free to reach out to me through phone or email. If you don't find yourself lucky enough to live up in the far reaches of Northern California, there is a link that lives in your area that can help you get connected to those resources. And we've put their contact information in the chat. Next slide, please. Okay, we're gonna turn it back over here.
Thank you, Cole. Really appreciate your time. So I would like to introduce Nick Murray, who's with Cal OES. And with that, Nick, if you're ready. Floor is yours.
Yep, I'm good to go. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about disaster preparedness, some of the different things we're going to cover, individual preparedness, property preparedness, and then some other, information as we go along. Next slide, please. All right, so first off, what is CalOES, right? We are the emergency wing of the state of California, and our job is to do everything we can to help protect lives, property, build capabilities, and support communities across the state. So obviously there's 58 counties. We do all we can to support all 58 counties throughout the entire year, everything from training to disaster support, all those different facets that go into that. The biggest thing is we're there to help the first responders do the best they can to take care of the folks that live in their communities. Next slide, please. So again, some of the things we're going to cover, we're going to talk about how you figure out about your risks, personal preparedness, different things that you guys can do. Then we're going to talk about property preparedness, and then we're going to go above and beyond, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the useful links that have been kind of sprinkled throughout the entire presentation. Next slide, please. So the first thing is, right, anybody that lives anywhere needs to know what their risks are. Majority of homeowners, right, you go out there, you find a place that you want to live, you got to first check to see whether or not it's in a floodplain. We go a little bit farther than that with the state of California. So through our My Hazards portal, this is a great way for you to type in your zip code, your address, your community area, and find out what other hazards are there. So for example, some of you might be in wildfire prone areas. That's going to be listed. Some of you might be in a tsunami zone or an earthquake fault zone, or you might even be in a volcano zone. All of those different other hazards that exist out there are going to be found on the My Hazards portal. So again, all you have to do is type in your address, figure out what hazards are near you, and then that might be able to help you later on in developing whatever types of insurance coverages that you're going to need for your home or property. Long story short, no matter where you live, you should know what your hazards are and how to prepare for those. Next slide, please. So these are the 7 typical hazards that we face in the state of California. The last one, I totally understand, it's man-made. Public safety power shutoffs. However, power outages are generally a symptom of the first 6 types of hazards that we deal with. So again, it's very important that you understand the types of hazards that face you and your community. Again, that My Hazards web portal is going to be your best way to figure that information out there. Long story short, as we look at all of these different types of hazards, we really want to stress that you need to be prepared, not for all of them, but for the ones that generally affect you. If you can go above and beyond and be prepared for all of them, great. But some people don't live in a tsunami zone, so they don't need to worry about that type of stuff. Next slide, please. So this is just another graphic that depicts the disaster frequency across the state of California. So over the last couple of years, we've been able to kind of compile a lot of different data. And each one of these are disaster occurrences. So for example, the one that really stands out there is those of you that are in the Los Angeles area, obviously looking at this right now, your primary disaster is going to be fires, then some sort of storm or flooding. And generally what we consider the storm is going to be the mudslides, any sort of flooding that may occur, things like that. And then obviously you've got your seismic events. Obviously those occur on a regular basis, but not as frequently as wildfires. And like I said, over the last year, we've been able to compile a lot of this information to really understand what communities need the most help and resources as we try to do our best to help prepare and mitigate those as we go through the timeframes. The other thing is it's really important that this can help show you, again, which counties are going to have a little bit higher disaster prone areas versus ones that will not so much. So for example, if you look kind of in the middle, you'll see San Francisco County. Pretty much flooding and seismic events. They don't really have wildfires due to their location and the things that they have. So it's all dependent on where you guys live and the different things that are prone in your area. Next slide, please. So when we talk about personal preparedness, there's usually 5 basic steps, and I've outlined them here. We're going to go into a little bit more detail on some of them as we go through. But the first thing is sign up for alerts. If you're not receiving regular emergency alerts from your county or your first responders, not to say that you're wrong, but we want to make sure that you're getting that information, because that information can really make a difference between being able to evacuate versus having to shelter in place, as well as being able to evacuate early before a disaster really strikes or impacts you and your family. Next is make a plan. We're going to talk a little bit about that here as we go, but the biggest thing is we want to make sure that you guys are creating a plan to protect yourself and your family. Being able to have a go kit or a stay box. So obviously every disaster is going to affect people differently, whether you need to shelter in place or you have to evacuate. So being able to have the essentials that you need, whether to be able to take them on the road with you or be able to stay in place with them is the best option. And we're going to talk a little bit later about the actual supplies that you should have on hand. And lastly, check on your neighbors. This is kind of a key one here. A lot of times we talk about, hey, I'm going to make sure that me and my family are good to go. But sometimes you live right next door to a person who may not have that ability to take care of themselves, or they may need additional assistance. So don't be afraid to go check on your neighbors to make sure they're good to go. And that also means, that doesn't mean your next door neighbor, but if you know quite a few people on your street, or there are folks that definitely need that assistance, we want to make sure that, hey, we're reaching out, we're doing our best to take care of our community and those that live around us. So these are the 5 kind of basic steps here. On the right-hand side of the page, you're going to see a QR code. If you open up your smart device, download the code, the first thing you're going to get is our Cal OES Family Readiness Guide. It is tied to another program within our agency. However, the Family Readiness Guide is a little over 20 pages. It's a comprehensive guide to help you build your emergency plan. So it's going to cover everything from you, your family, your pets, your home, your coverages that you may need for insurance, and all the different things and tips, techniques, and all the other things that you could use to help prepare your family for an emergency. Next slide, please. So when we talk about signing up for alerts and warnings, we generally suggest folks go to our calalerts.org. Cal Alerts is a conglomerate of all 58 counties. So basically, you go there, you find your county, you click on it, and then you sign up for their individual emergency alert system. And a lot of times these are going to be through wireless messaging or email, depending on how it is that you can sign up. But the biggest thing is, like I said, for those of you that live in these areas where wildfires are a little bit more prone, for example, our folks up here in Northern California, across the state as well, these alerts are lifesavers. So the best thing you can do is sign up for alerts. Generally, they're free unless there's some sort of text message or data rates that are applied. But the biggest thing is sign up for alerts as fast as you can. So at least you're going to have that information right away. Another thing you can do is download the Earthquake Warning California app. It used to be called the Early Earthquake Warning. However, we know that there's no real such thing. What it comes back down to is this. That Earthquake Warning app is going to give you a basically distance and direction to where that earthquake is occurring. And generally, you're going to get alerts depending on the settings that you put in there. With that being said, it's another one of those tools that may give you the time that you need to be able to drop cover and hold until that earthquake is over. And then obviously the most important thing is talk to your counties or get information from your county offices of emergency services. And the reason being is generally there's no set standard across the state, although we try to encourage that. But know the difference between an evacuation warning and an evacuation order. A lot of times we just basically say, when you get that warning, don't wait to evacuate. First thing you should do is get your stuff together and get moving. And then again, the biggest thing is check with your local county office of emergency services so that you know the difference. Next slide, please. All right, so when we talk about making a plan, right? The first thing is create a communications plan. What we're asking you to do here is make sure that you have a plan. So when you leave the house or you're evacuating from an area, that you know exactly who you're going to be communicating with, right? So you're going to be letting your family know. You're going to be letting friends know. So if you're going to be leaving a community and going to a safe place, make sure that people know when you get there and when you're leaving. And understand that the biggest thing is obviously your safety and your family's safety is paramount to everybody. But we want to make sure that is communicated across. So that's one of the big things that you should do is have a communications plan. You should also gather and organize your supplies. So we talked a little bit earlier about your stay kit or your go kit or your stay box. This is what we're talking about, having this stuff readily available in a centralized location, whether it's easy to grab and go or easy to pull out and distribute as needed. Make sure you designate at least 2 places to meet. So one of the big things that happens a lot of times during a disaster is you may have kids in school, the family may be at work, or somebody might be at home. So generally the family is split to the 4 winds because everybody has different things going on. So you want to be able to have multiple places that you can meet up that are hopefully out of the area. So whether that's grandma's house in the next county over, or at the brother-in-law's house 2 counties over, wherever that's going to be, that should be something that's built into your plan. And everybody should know how to get there or where it is, so that in case they do need to get there, they know it's going to be a safe area. Next, obviously, one of the big things that happens during disasters, especially wildfires, is road closures. So don't be surprised if the primary way that you leave your community is going to be blocked off. So try to know multiple routes out of your area, especially out of your neighborhood and then out of your community. Generally, as we see, for example, the fires up here, like the Calvert fire, a lot of the primary roads that would take you up to Highway 50 are currently blocked off. So a lot of people are having to go south to get out of the area, which can take a lot longer, but at least it's a safer route to do. But if you don't know those routes, the best thing you can do is check with your county office of emergency services or your sheriff's office, who are generally in charge of the road closures. So you're going to want to check on that information so you know how to get out of your community safely. Lastly, don't forget your pets. Plan for your pets. We know that a lot of people choose not to evacuate when they can't take their pets with them. Well, guess what? Plan for your pets to go with you in the best possible way, and you're going to be able to evacuate safely. So don't forget those little guys as well. Next slide, please. So preparing your documents. As a veteran, I totally understand having an I Love Me book is going to get things, a lot easier when you're dealing with the VA. So one of the big things that you're going to want to make sure you have copies of military records, along with all of the other stuff kind of listed here. So like I said, having a copy of your DD-214 and discharge paperwork, having copies of your passports, having copies of birth certificates, marriage licenses, all of that information is going to be extremely helpful, especially if your house or domicile is destroyed in a fire. You're going to at least have that information, and it's going to help get you on your feet a lot faster. Have recent photographs of your family. The one big thing is if folks get separated during an evacuation, a lot of times people can end up at one or more shelters. So the biggest thing you're going to want to be able to say, hey, look, if the American Red Cross is helping you out, this is what my son or daughter or my brother looks like. I'm looking for them. Can you help us out? And having those recent photos is going to make it a lot easier. And then, like I said, financial records, right? All of this stuff should hopefully be kept in some centralized, fireproof case. If not, no big deal. Having it in a binder works just as well, something that you can easily grab off the shelf and take with you. Having all of your financial records are going to be extremely important. Banking information, any sort of bonds, investment records, that type of stuff. So having all of that information readily available to grab is going to make things a lot easier in case in case you lose your home or domicile. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about basic supplies here. So these supplies can be built into a go kit or a stay box, kind of depending on what you're looking at. But the biggest thing is have plenty of water, have plenty of food, have the ability to take care of you and your pets, your family. Obviously, the biggest thing is, the medical prescriptions. So you're going to want to make sure that you have copies of that stuff in case you get sent to a shelter. And you're going to need refills. Sometimes some agencies do have the ability to provide refills on site. Otherwise, we would work through other medical agencies or health agencies within those counties to help refill those prescriptions. So you're going to want to make sure you have copies of that stuff with you. And then as far as everything else goes, right, it's kind of generic, but it's also very helpful. So having an emergency radio, extra batteries, flashlights, a first aid kit. I can't stress having a first aid kit enough. The biggest thing is people evacuate, people are going to get hurt. It's not uncommon. So, having a first aid kit can really take care of you and your family and maybe others along the way if you're helping them out too. Being able to have some sort of whistle or air horn to signal for help is also important, especially if you get stuck or stranded. Flooding is one of those things where a lot of times you've always seen the pictures of people sitting on the roofs in the middle of a flood. Well, the biggest thing is what usually flags down first responders to help you out is going to be sound or light. So you're going to want to make sure you have a whistle or some sort of air horn to be able to say, hey, look, I'm here, I need help. And then again, local maps, cash for emergency purposes, and sleeping bags and blankets. So all of these are kind of basic supplies. The biggest thing is how you organize them into a stay box or a go kit is going to be extremely helpful if you have to evacuate or if you have to shelter in place. Next slide, please. So we're going to talk a little bit about property preparedness. The most important thing is make sure you have adequate insurance coverage. I can't stress that enough. With all the different types of hazards out there, everything from earthquake, fire, and flood, tsunamis, and so forth, it's really important that you have homeowners and property insurance that covers or provides you the best coverage possible. If you're in a fire-prone area, we're going to talk in the next couple of slides, we're going to talk about this, but do you have defensible space? Have you gone through, trimmed back your trees, gotten rid of combustibles that would make your house more prone to catching fire? And then lastly, if you're in a tsunami zone, do you know where the high ground is? A lot of times that high ground shelter is going to be, maybe a couple of miles away. So you should at least know where that high ground shelter is in order to get away or escape from that. Next slide, please. So when we talk about creating defensible safes, it's pretty simple. You're removing combustibles from around the property. You're trimming trees back. You're getting rid of dry and dead brush. You're getting rid of anything that would generally catch fire very easily. The reason being is generally in wildfires, a lot of them are wind driven. So you're going to have hot embers flying through the air that can catch multiple things on fire. Hence why when you see a lot of these wildfires that we experience up here in Northern California, these spot fires show up pretty quick and then they spread and create more spot fires. And that's how these wildfires spread so quickly due to those hot embers flying around in the air. So the best thing that you can do as a property owner that lives in one of these places that may be the wildland urban interface, or you live in a wilderness area, is to go ahead and cut back a lot of those trees, remove that dead brush, do your best to make it as fireproof as possible. And then lastly, again, things like barbecue tanks, propane tanks and whatnot, make sure those are far enough away from the house. So if they were to catch fire, it's not going to affect your house. So these are some of the different things that you can do. And the other thing is, I put this down there. I highly encourage you check with your local fire safe council. All 58 counties have a local fire safe council, and they provide various different resources that can help you as a homeowner, prepare your home for fires, or at least prepare against fires. So it's one of those things I highly encourage that you look at those, look at the councils. Next slide, please. Again, other things you can do around the home. You can make sure that you install and maintain your smoke and carbon monoxide detectors on every level of the home. Do your best to brace, your furniture or make it earthquake proof. So make sure that like tall bookshelves and whatnot are braced to the wall so that it avoids tipping over in the middle of an earthquake. Check on your fire extinguishers, make sure they're serviceable. That's really important. A lot of people actually don't have fire extinguishers within the home. So if you don't have one, I do encourage that you go out and get one. And make sure it's the right type for what you guys need in the home. There's A, B, and C. There's various different things. The biggest thing is a lot of times if you go to like Lowe's, Home Depot, one of those places, you can easily find a fire extinguisher that's going to fit your needs. But again, make sure they're serviceable and they're still working. And then consider purchasing a backup generator if you live in one of those areas that's subject to PSPS on a regular basis. Most importantly, you're trying to keep that food nice and cold so it doesn't rot. And then those power outages can last anywhere from 1 to 2 days, if not longer, depending on the area that you live in. So it's one of those things, make sure it's got plenty of fuel and it's ready to go. Lastly, know where all of your utility shutoffs are. It's really important that if you have to evacuate or you're going to be evacuating, that you're able to shut off any sort of gas that goes into the home or domicile. The last thing you want to do is provide a regular flame that's going to keep that thing going in case it does catch fire. So it's one of those additional safe things that you can do is to be able to shut off the gas before you leave the house. Next slide, please. So obviously, these are all the different things that you can do for you and your family and your loved ones as we go forward. But what we always talk about as a veteran is what can we do to go above and beyond. So we highly encourage volunteerism. So you can volunteer with the American Red Cross. Your local community emergency response team is usually supported by your local county office of emergency services and your local fire departments. And they do various things, everything from animal rescue to supporting sheltering and different things like that. So again, multiple ways that you can get involved. The AmeriCorps is another way to get involved. It's federally funded. And then we also have hashtag Californians for All, which is another means of volunteering. It's very similar to the federal AmeriCorps. And then we also have the California State Guard. It's an auxiliary military component to the National Guard, where they bring you in on duty and you're able to provide different resources and support during disasters. And many times it's more on the administrative side. But again, these are all different ways that once you've kind of taken care of your bases, you're good to go, making sure your family is taken care of. This is a means for you to jump in and help out outside of your normal duties. Next slide, please. So as we kind of talked about useful links, right? So the first one, signing up for alerts. Wireless emergency alerts through CalAlerts is going to be a big help for you and your family to make sure that you're getting that information right away to, in case you need to evacuate or shelter in place. Again, I've provided a link to our Cal OES Family Readiness Guide. Again, that's 27 pages of good information to help get you where you need to. And it's a fillable document available in 6 other languages. So the best thing is you can download it right away, start filling it out, and you can put that in that Go binder that we talked about earlier. The Cal OES My Hazards page is going to be extremely helpful. That's exactly where you're going to dump in your zip code or your address and find out what hazards are in your area. Again, the California Fire Safe Councils are going to have a ton of information and resources to help you prepare for wildfires. And then the last 2 here, FEMA's ready.gov is a clearinghouse of federal information for preparing for disasters of all types. And then Listos California provides a few other resources across the state that is available in, I believe, in 15 different languages on the basics of preparedness. So there's a lot of resources out here. The best thing that we can do is say, hey, look, we want you to take advantage of these. I highly encourage you download or at least peruse some of the information so that you're more prepared as you go forward into future disasters. Next slide, please. So again, from one veteran to another, I just want to say thank you and thank you for your service. You can feel free to reach out to me at any time. Email is preferred because we're always kind of doing different things around the agency and around the state. But most importantly, if you have any other preparedness questions, you can feel free to reach out to me. I do work in the Planning and Preparedness Division for OES. And that concludes my brief. I appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Great. Nick, thank you so much for your time as well. We really appreciate you joining us and providing this valuable information. Certainly appreciate your partnership with Cal OES as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to introduce Joe Johnson, who is with the VA Northern California Healthcare System and serves as an emergency management specialist. So Joe, if you are with us, feel free to take it away.
Okay, thank you, sir. And I just want to, from one veteran to another, thank you, Nick, for that most thorough checklist on preparedness. I've been in the VA now 25 years. Serving 14 years as an emergency preparedness coordinator, specialist, military 5 years, Persian Gulf, the storm and shield veteran. And I'm also a wildfire victim. I was living in Paradise during the Camp Fire, and I lost my house during that time. And everything Nick has to say is 100% spot on. So go ahead, vet, and get prepared. What I like to do, and thank you, CalTAP, for inviting me to present, is on our Veterans Health Administration's wildfire response. And I'm talking at the local level. I work for the VA Northern California Healthcare System in Sacramento, or otherwise known as the Sacramento VA. And I've been here for the last 5 years, and just a quick synopsis of how we respond to wildfires to ensure continuity of care for our vets. Next slide, please. So, what do we do? What do we do at the VHA? Well, we have 4 programs that we have to deal with, and the first 3 are to care for him who is born in the battle. We take care of our vets. Next is to care for his widow and his orphan. We take care of the vet's family. The third is to train the next generation of healthcare professionals and to conduct research and development in healthcare. But what is the fourth? The fourth is, as it says here, to improve our nation's preparedness for response to war, terrorism, national emergencies. And basically, as the VA, we provide the public health care part of that cause. So that's our focus. Next slide, please. And how do we do that? Well, the VHA has the Office of Emergency Management, which is our lead program office. And we developed the Comprehensive Emergency Management Program. And what is that? That program, it basically ensures that VA medical centers perform the mitigation, preparedness, response, and recovery activities that will allow us to focus on continuity of veterans healthcare in the event of emergency and disasters. Go ahead, next slide, sir. And how do we do that? it is a process we've been developing over the last several years, from the time of the Valley Fire in Lake County back in 2015. We started to hone this process where when a disaster happens, one of the first things we do, and my office does, is we try to get as much situational awareness as we can, where it is, how big it is, where it's going, our closest clinics, how are they impacted, our staffing, how are they impacted. When we do this, we assess all disasters by city, town, county, and zip code. We try to do our best to make sure we can cover as much ground as we can so we can provide good information to our leadership. So we search by zip code, and we not only account for veterans in the impacted zones or the evacuation zones, we actually do a scrub of the entire zip code to contact vets. Our call center, they'll pull the names of all the veteran patients in our system, and include the vulnerable patients we'll talk about in a minute, and make sure that we give a reach out call or outreach call to let them know there is an event in your area, and if there's anything you need right now as far as care wise, and to give out as much information as we can to help the veteran get prepared. And if the veteran is in an evacuation zone, we try our best to reach out and contact the veteran to see, to do an assessment on what issues they have and what care they need, and so that we can try to continue that care. Next slide, please. Now, we reach out to veterans and vulnerable patient populations. And who are those patients? Well, just think about it, community nursing homes and patients at the local hospitals, dialysis patients. So we are homeless vets, home-based primary care patients. We also reach out to patients that have O2 needs and medical device needs. Mobility patients, behavioral health patients. So we try not to leave anyone behind. We make sure that when we get the list of VA patients, we make sure that list is passed on to the patient care provider or the POC of the program. If it's a dialysis patient or home O2, we make sure we pass that information on to that program and ask them to conduct surveillance. Next slide, please. And we also conduct evacuation shelter outreach. As you can imagine, with the Caldor fire, even the Dixie fire, our outreach team is very busy right now. We're actually activated right now conducting assessments at least 4 of the evacuation centers in the Caldor fire area. We're assessing upstaffing so that we can cover more areas and at a better time. So we're constantly trying to improve. We work closely with the Mobile Vet Center, the VBA RCS group, which is it's actually a very excellent collaboration between the two groups, and it's a very welcoming presence to see the MVC out there with VA healthcare staff to provide outreach and care to our patients. And their job is to search out veteran patients, check in with the staff at the shelter, introduce themselves. We usually have a good collaboration with shelter staff, and we go around and we troll for vets. We let our presence known, and so far we've outreach shelter, all the shelters at Caldor. We've made contact with 72 vets and provided assistance in various means. Pharmacy refills, just like we talked about, wheelchairs, rescheduling appointments that they missed, just basically making sure that we can continue care. We've reached out and we actually provided assistance so far to 55, and that's constantly growing. Now, for evacuated veterans not enrolled in VA, we take the opportunity, we introduce ourselves, and we assist with the veteran enrolling into the VA healthcare system. We make sure they have all the information they need to enroll. Next slide, please. And, like I said, that's a very quick synopsis of what we do. We're active now. I guess I will be active for the foreseeable future, at least during fire season. And I just want to thank CalTAP and the group for inviting me to present today to you. So that's all I have, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Joe. We really appreciate you being here and all that you and NorCal VA Healthcare do to support all of our veterans in need. So thank you so much for everything you do. And thank you for being here with us to present all that great information. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Jennifer Rudquist. I am proud to say I'm a CalTAP training coordinator with CalVet, and I work with Derek. I've been on the back end. I'm the one that was putting all that stuff in the chat. I'm the one that's sending the information to the subject matter experts for those questions that you might have and such. Additionally, I am an Air Force veteran myself. I'm a military brat of 18 years. I'm an Air Force wife to a 25-year active duty airman. I'm the mother of 3 airmen, and I can relate to every single one of you guys attending today's webinar. With that being said, I would like to take a moment to say thank you to all of the service members, veterans, spouses, friends, parents, families, and friends for all that you've done and all that you do to support the United States Armed Forces. Uniformed or not, I understand that all of you guys serve. And I want you to know, cradle to grave, that CalVet and all the organizations are here for you and truly are passionate about getting resources and assistance to you. And we encourage you guys to reach out to us if you're in any type of need or just have questions. During this part of the presentation, myself and Cole Wagner, the North Valley link who spoke earlier, is going to go over local assistance available to you and your families, whether it be for a disaster like a wildfire or you just need assistance. These resources are invaluable. All right, next slide, and we're going to hand it over to Cole for the next few slides.
Thank you, Jen. So just as kind of an explanation about what a local assistance center is, a local assistance center is set up generally by the county in conjunction with the Office of Emergency Services. And it's basically a single location where survivors of natural disasters like wildfires can go to receive services from multiple different agencies in one location. So if you are ever in the unfortunate situation that you need to go to one of the local assistance centers because you've lost your home or you've been evacuated, you will find all kinds of services available to you because you're going to need all these services. Putting your life back together after a natural disaster like a wildfire is a long-term complicated thing, and a local assistance center is set up in order to provide survivors of these disasters with places to go to get all these resources in one location. Next slide, please. So what kinds of services are we talking about? DMV services, like if you maybe had to evacuate your home and you had to leave a vehicle behind and your vehicle was destroyed. Well, now you need to do things like replace titles. You need to get vehicles listed as no longer in use, things like that. Records recovery. So all those property deeds, marriage certificates, death certificates, birth certificates, veterans records like DD-214s, things like that all need to be replaced. Have access to VA healthcare, like Joe just mentioned. The VA is generally at the local assistance center providing access to healthcare, everything from replacing lost durable medical equipment to prescriptions, to signing up new veterans into the healthcare system. Home loan support, so generally CalVet will be there, like you would see someone like myself or one of the other links at a local assistance center answering questions about veteran benefits that are available. Also assisting if you have a home loan through CalVet in contacting the insurance provider and our customer support unit. And then there will also be information there about housing, social services, and then additionally grief counseling, like we mentioned, through the vet center. Next slide, please. So how can you find a local assistance center? There are several different ways to do it. CAL FIRE offers information on their website broken down by fire event. And then our website will have the information on there for veterans. Cal OES's website will generally have the information on there. You can try and call your local 211 or go to 211.org on the web. And then also, local news is also a great information source for dates, times, and locations of local assistance centers. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jen, and she's going to walk you through all those websites to show you how you can find that information.
All right, next slide. So this is the fire.ca.gov, the CAL FIRE website. So once you go on here at the top, it says incidents, where it's I have that yellow arrow pointing towards. You're going to click on that, and then where the next arrow is to the right side, you're going to see all the different active fires going on. You're going to click on the fire that applies to you, or maybe a loved one or friends who wanted to check out what's going on. And then it's going to pop up with the little block on the side there that says Dixie. You can see this one says Dixie Fire. Just click on view details. It's going to tell you about how big it is, who's being affected, who is being evacuated, where the local assistance is, and much, much more. Next slide. So this is our website, calvet.ca.gov. So there's a couple different ways that you can get to our alerts and the fire page for CalVet. Usually when you open it up, you'll get these 3 different little notes up here. You just click on California Fire Updates. But if that's not there, just click on alerts at the top right there, circled in the smaller circle up there. Next slide. Now, once you do that, this is exactly what that page is going to look like. It's going to have the local assistance centers, if that information is available, and then it's going to have your local interagency network coordinators like Cole. So let's say that you don't see an LAC and you need assistance. You can call a link in that area, and they can assist you on where to go to get assistance or where the LACs are. You can also find out about air quality on this thing. You could find all sorts of great information on this page. Next slide. So this is Cal OES's website. You go to news.caloes.ca.gov. If you do it like that, then you'll easily have some links to assist you to get to those local assistance centers. So you'll just click on that third one down that says local assistance center, and it'll pop up with all the local assistance centers available. Next slide. This is where I'm going to let Cole take over.
I'm going to jump back in here because we've talked about the vet center before on the webinar. And in case folks aren't familiar, the VA Vet Center is a separate part of the Veterans Healthcare Administration, and they offer trauma and other counseling for war veterans. Now, in the event of a natural disaster, they also, like the rest of the VA, flex to support, and they offer grief counseling and other trauma counseling to veterans and their family members that are affected. So usually they will have a large mobile vet center van, or they'll have some type of table or something like that at the local assistance center, and they will have either counselors or outreach specialists there to talk to you about what you're experiencing, because a wildfire and an evacuation can be very traumatic. And so it's important to understand that the vet center is available if you don't see them at the at some type of an evacuation shelter or a local assistance center. They're also available 24/7 over the phone on the phone number listed, 877 WARVETS. Next slide, please. Additionally, records recovery is another very common thing that is requested at the local assistance center, especially for veterans, because if you've lost your DD-214 or your discharge paperwork, that's going to be a very important part of using your veterans benefits to access services as a veteran. Next slide, please. Some of the ways to recover the military records. The National Archives is the storage authority for the DD-214s. You can go online to archives.gov/veterans to request it electronically. That's the surest way to get it. However, it also is the way that takes the longest to get it. It can take several weeks to get and DD-214 through that method. You could also, if you've ever given your DD-214 to the VA for like applying for VA healthcare or applying for veterans benefits, you can go through this website to contact the VA, or you could call the VA at the number above 800-827-1000 and see if they can send you a copy of your DD-214. And then finally, if you have a DS Logon, which is an online Department of Defense logon for military and veterans, you can, and additionally, if you have separated from military service fairly recently, like within the last 15 years, they have digital copies of DD-214s through the MilConnect website, and we've listed the MilConnect website address down here at the bottom. So that's probably the fastest way to get it. But again, if you have not separated within probably the last 15 or so years, it's probably not going to be in digital form. And if you've never given your DD-214 to the VA for any reason, they're not going to have it. And the only place that's going to keep it is the National Archives in St. Louis. And again, that's a long process to request that. Now, what I would recommend, just as a personal recommendation for all folks out there who are might be viewing this, is that you get your DD-214 before the emergency happens, and you either save a digital copy, maybe scan it and save it in your email, or you talk to your county veteran service office and you have them scan a copy and save a copy for you. So find some way to save a digital copy of your DD-214, because you can have all the paper copies you want in a fire safe in your home or in your go box, whatever you need. But if your go box isn't with you when you have to go, then it's going to be gone. And so have a digital copy if you can of those DD-214s, because they are absolutely critical when you're trying to get veterans benefits after the fire. And I'm going to turn it back over to Jen after that.
Thank you, Cole. All right, next slide. So we're going to be going over the County Veteran Service Office. These offices are fantastic, whether it be during a disaster or just everyday use. They've got some fantastic resources for you. Next slide. So what does a CVS do? They provide veterans and dependents free benefit information, assistance, and counseling. They have brought in approximately 540 million new benefits and 336 million in continuing benefits for California veterans. Next slide. So they do that through claims and compensation. They do that through pension. They do it through in all these different things. They assist you guys on getting these benefits to you. They can assist with records requests, like Cole said, discharge upgrades, college tuition fee waiver. They can help you with a veterans designation, burial benefits, all sorts of great stuff. And they just got a comprehensive benefits counseling there. So if you are in need and maybe you are a victim to a fire, go to your CVSO, see what types of benefits are open to you or type of things that you can do to get some services to you. They also network in their advocacy with the state, federal, and local agencies. So they work with us all. Next slide. How do you find a CVSO? That's really important. Next slide. You're going to go to either in our resource book that I put in our chat and also was sent to you guys via the Eventbrite email, or you can go on to our website. Next slide. So when you go onto our website, there's a few different ways to find CVSOs. So if you're looking at the top, you can find it at Find Your Service Provider, and you just put in your zip code and that you need local assistance. And then you can also go to Find CVSO right there in the middle, and you can call, and it's a phone tree. And basically you put your zip code in and I'll link you to the CVSO closest to you. Or you can find your local CVSO. And once you click on that, it'll list all the CVSOs, all the counties in California, and you just click on the county that you're in. And it'll show the date, the days that they're open, their address, and their phone numbers. Next slide. So this is a recap of all the resources that were given during this presentation. In addition, I put some extra phone numbers in there that are pretty important. Homeless veteran assistance. There's a veterans crisis line on here. The vet center, like we talked about earlier. Our phone number, please give us a call if you have any type of questions. And then the Department of Veterans Affairs. Then you also have those useful links over there that Nick was giving you earlier also, and those websites. Next slide. So this is a portion in our presentation where we're going to go over the questions and answers section. I believe we just got one question in there and it was answered. I'm just going to read it out so everybody can hear this. It says, just to confirm, shut off the gas when evacuated. I have heard don't shut the gas off if you don't have a leak or massive problem or gas company to turn back on for a resident. Is evacuation an exception? So Nick answered this. Nick, do you want to answer it again or do you want me to read it out loud?
I can answer it again. That's not a problem. So generally, we know that across there's like 5 primary gas companies in the state of California, along with all of the other power utility companies. They have varying degrees on answers on this in particular. What we look at it is from the standpoint of what you're doing is you're reducing the available fuels that could be used to keep a fire going or help it spread. So generally what we suggest is if you're going to evacuate, you shut off the gas to your home and then you take off from there. Generally, they all require a very simple tool. A pair of pliers can do it as well. And it's basically a very simple 90-degree turn on your gas valve. And again, what we suggest this, however, what we also suggest is that you check with your local gas provider on their preference on this as well. Like I said, the answers vary depending on the company and the insurance policies that are all kind of like thrown in there. So we encourage it. However, the first thing you should do is check with your gas company on what they would want you to do in the case of an evacuation. We also know from experience that a lot of times when the power goes out in a certain area, or if it's a wildfire evacuation, the gas company is not going to be out there shutting off their lines until later on if they have the ability to. So we just look at it from the standpoint of reduce the available fuels in order to prevent your house from catching on fire. It's just one additional thing that the firefighters don't have to worry about in the long run. So again, varying degrees on this answer, but we encourage you to shut off your gas lines before you evacuate.
That is a great question. And I'm so glad that you expanded on that because that confuses me a little bit too. So that's all the questions that we have so far. We'll wait for a few more to come in. While we're waiting, we're going to go to the next slide where you guys can take a screenshot of this. This is all of our contact information of all the presenters' contact information. And then also I'm going to put in the chat our survey. Our survey is we honestly value so much your guys' opinions, and we want to make these presentations as beneficial as possible for you guys. We want to give you exactly what you need when you need it. And we don't want to give you too much and overwhelm you, but we don't want to shortchange you. So please fill out those surveys that I'm going to put in the link, and also it's sent through the Eventbrite emails. And let us know if there's anything else that you might need. Maybe you want to hear about a different webinar, or maybe you like something that we're doing. Maybe you just give us anything that you have. We truly look at those and we apply everything that are put in those surveys. So please fill out that survey. We greatly appreciate it. Next slide. And then also I want to say that in addition to this webinar, we conduct quite a few webinars monthly ever since COVID happened. And that you guys can sign up for these just like you signed up for this one, like through Eventbrite. So if you want, you can go onto our website. I'm going to also put that in the chat. So right now I'm putting that survey in the chat, and then I will put in the other one. Derek, do you have anything else for anybody?
Nope, not for me, Jen. Thanks for covering all that. Sharing the survey information as well, our upcoming webinars, and nothing from me. So if there's nothing else from the group, I think we could go ahead and conclude.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to our presenters. Thank you to all of the service members out there, the veterans, the families, the friends, everyone who's there. Please stay safe, and please reach out to us. We are very passionate about helping you guys. We want to get you those benefits to you. So if you need any assistance at all, right there, I've left in the chat. Again, our phone number, our email, and our website. Again, you can copy and paste everything that's in the chat, or you can also reference to the welcome pre-packet that we sent you guys through Eventbrite. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a fantastic day.